Hi guys, this is Coach Joe Micela, 2012 Olympic coach and owner and head coach of Performance One Advanced Sports Training in Mesa, Arizona. Recently on our Facebook site, we asked our fans to send in questions they may have regarding strength training, Olympic weightlifting, CrossFit, and general nutrition. And we got some good responses. First question comes to us from Raul in Bangkok, Thailand, where he asked, Coach, how does someone get into doing the Olympic lifts who comes into the sport with tightness in their shoulders? And he uses a specific reason or situation in his case where he has tight shoulders from bench press. We're doing too many bench presses. In a lot of cases, this particular type of athlete, in which we see, has overactive anterior delts and pecs from doing too much bench presses and not enough doing upper back work, rhomboid and lat work, to kind of balance out that overactive pulling forward of the shoulders. We see this a lot of times with guys or girls that do too much anterior delt work and their pecs are too tight. They can't put their arms and hold their arms overhead in the proper position. By working on mobility, working on some passive massage, so loosening up the pecs, loosening up the anterior delt, along with strengthening the rhomboids in the upper back, then those athletes can kind of get their body in position. In the meantime, when it comes to actually learning the lifts, in our teaching progressions, what we do, we have our athletes, we work on segmented learning, okay? And in that case, in that situation, we will take our stick. If they were learning how to do the snatch, we'll open up that chest, open up that anterior delt by them doing movements from behind the neck first, working on their presses, working on overhead squats to various different receiving positions, whether it be quarter squat, whether it be half squat, whether it be full squat receiving position, along with learning the movements from the front of their body in a segmented learning style, a top-down approach, learning from the hip, mid, and above the knee. In all their receiving positions, in the meantime, until they get looser in the chest and in their anterior delts, will be receiving the barbell in a quarter squat, in a half squat, because probably half and full squat are probably not going to be there, because with their tightness, they'll be causing the barbell to go in front of their body. But when it's at quarter, when it's at half, they can keep the bar over there. That's what we would do with them first. Great question, Ro. We'll keep them coming. Second question comes to us from Rudy in Phoenix, Arizona, where Rudy asked the question, what is the best way to build endurance while sacrificing as little speed and strength as possible? And that is a great question with the general strength conditioning athletes. They do all this hard work by doing strength and power training in the off season, and then they go into their primary sport, whether it be football, whether it be rugby, whether it be soccer, whether it be wrestling, whether it be basketball. And they want to maintain that high level of strength, that high level of power that they develop, but they know that they have to get into a certain amount of cardiovascular conditioning for their primary sport. And the way we do that here at Performance One is we do intervals, interval sprints with our athletes. So if it's a field sport like, say, rugby, or a field sport like soccer or football, instead of doing this, enormous aerobic base of running a mile, running 800s, running multiple miles, running multiple 800s, we would break it down into smaller segment running, runs that would only last about 20 seconds in maximum duration. So they would do that in intervals of doing that, or multiple sets, multiple rounds as you may call them. And this is going to lead to maintaining a high level of power, maintaining a high level of strength, but then getting that cardiovascular system. One, so that they can respond and recover quicker from those bouts. And that's going to simulate and mimic more their sport, whether it be rugby, whether it be football. Even in soccer to a lot of degrees, it's short stops and goes, bursts of action, as opposed to long distance, long cardio and aerobic base. And studies have shown that with doing more longer distance, longer aerobic duration exercises can actually decrease on that built-in power and that strength. And we don't want that, as a power athlete that's going into those sports. So we would stick with intervals, short duration, in sets in that 5 to 8 range, And then obviously depending on the sport, whether it be rugby, we may keep the sprints between 20 and 30 meters, And working at a higher intensity, a little bit shorter rest periods. But even with that, I wouldn't really go rest periods shorter than about 45 seconds, Because we want them to still maintain a higher power output with that. Great question from Rudy. Our third question comes to us from Laura in Las Vegas, Nevada. Well, Laura asked the question, what are my thoughts on the effectiveness of the Tabata training protocol? Kind of segues from that last question that Rudy had. The Tabata protocol, for those of you who are not familiar with it, is a protocol usually used for cardiovascular training, where you would have a maximum exertion for about 20 seconds, whether you're sprinting for 20 seconds, you're riding a bike for 20 seconds, doing some type of activity for 20 seconds. And then you're taking roughly about a 10-second break. And then you're repeating that. Usually in the sets or round range of around 8. It can be less or more depending on your goals, but on average it's roughly for about 8. So you're doing that total movement, the 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off, for about 8 rounds or 8 sets of that. Do I think it's good? Yes, it has a time and a place. Can we do it all the time? No. Okay? But I think there's a time and a place. We're doing a Tabata protocol for a cardio-based movement, whether it be sprints, whether it be you're on a bike, doing sprint intervals on a bike is very good. It's going to increase that high-intensity training that we want. It gets you in that cardiovascular zone that's going to be above that 85% of your max heart rate, which is great. But then we also, like I said, the 10-second rest is usually not long enough to really catch your breath. So what happens is power can kind of decrease very quickly. If we're looking at it from a pure conditioning standpoint, okay. But if you're wanting to try to maintain a high level of power, the rest is too short. Okay, you have to have a higher level, an increase in rest period. That's going to be a huge thing. How much? It really depends on the activity and what you're trying to do. If you're a football player, 10-second rest is not going to be enough. Okay? On average, a rest period between plays is going to be roughly about the time clock, their play clock, roughly about 40 seconds, give or take, 10 to 15 seconds with ball being placed, timeouts that are called within there. But the actual rest of that play clock is going to be about 40 seconds. So on average, we won't let our athletes rest usually less than about that, because again, it will tap into their power, okay, and tap into their strength reserves. Then it just becomes almost a continuous movement or continuous set. So it really depends on what you're trying to do, okay? If you're just trying to go up a little bit and then come down a little bit, no problem. You can use the Tabata protocol to do exercise like that. Really good when it's a fixed movement, like using it on a bike. Maybe using it on a treadmill, okay? Is very good. I just like a little bit more rest period. I'd rather have the power outputs be a little bit higher, more exertion, because when they're that close together and the entire sequence is that close together, you see less of that power input and you just see more of that middle endurance kind of being built, okay? And that's my personal philosophy on that. Last question comes to us from Lisa in Gilbert, Arizona, and she asked the question, what does it really take to be a true champion? And I said, there's a lot of things that go into it. It's a great question, Lisa. Part of it has got to be genetics. You got to have the right tools in the body. Okay, you have to be able to do things that your body's going to be able to handle, whether it be running fast, lifting a lot of weights, jumping really high. You have to have that natural genetic ability in your body. But the most important thing is heart determination. You got to want it. You got to want to get up every day, go to the gym or go to the track, go to the field, and do the work that you need to do. It's more encompassing than just saying, hey, I'm just genetically gifted more than everybody else. At some point, you're going to run into someone who's just better or as good as you. And now it's going to be about how hard do you want it or how hard do you work to get there. Okay? And those are the things that we look for as a coach. Okay? Does this person, can they handle not only the good days but the bad days, the long grinds of training, okay, the long grinds of a training cycle, which can be months, can be years. And that person can show up and apply themselves each and every day. Those are the things that we look for as coaches, we look for here at Performance One, that's going to make someone be that great champion. All great questions, guys. We really appreciate you sending them. Keep them coming so we can answer them. You can reach us at performance1.net. Also, you can go to the Facebook site with facebook.com/performance1. We look forward to hearing you in the future. Take care.